Hello and welcome to uh, the third part of our discussion of the place function. And this time we're going to focus on logistics. And one of my challenges with this particular topic is that logistics is allegedly my primary area of expertise. And so, as with the international marketing lecture, I have to take a course that I teach, LG 328 Business Logistics, and kind of condense it into a 20-minute video. And even more so, you say, what is this? What is this? This is a shameless plug for my contemporary logistics textbook. Um, so I've not only teach the course, but okay, heavily written textbook that's used for the course. So I got to take all that stuff and try to combine it into or condense it into 20 minutes. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about logistics to start with, kind of generic kind of stuff, and then I'm going to define what is meant by logistics and look at some of the components of the definition, and then finish up by talking about how logistics fits into marketing. And actually, one of the places I start whenever I teach the basic logistics course here at John Carroll, or if I do what I call dog and pony shows for organizations that want to learn a little bit about logistics, is first thing I tell them is that bad logistics can screw up good marketing. And it sounds like it's really a simple statement, but it's really a powerful statement, because and a lot of companies, a lot of organizations don't understand that, in part because historically, and this has changed particularly over the past 20 years, but historically logistics was, um, it, I love logistics, but on the sexy meter, logistics just doesn't move the needle a whole lot. Particularly when it comes to marketing, and in part because if you look at some of the functions that comprise logistics, you've got warehousing, you've got transportation, you've got packaging, you've got materials handling, you've got um, inventory management, and several other functions depending on what organization you might be in. And somebody sitting around talking about, like, earlier today, for example, I was reading an article on pallets, Palletts. I really, I like pallets a lot, but when you're talking about pallets relative to maybe talking about designing a new iPhone, most people are going to be a lot more interested in designing the new iPhone than with pallets. And one of the results of this was that for a long time, many organizations just were like, we just, logistics, we know it exists. We really don't want to have anything to do with it. And they ignored it, or worse yet, they mismanaged it. And that's where the bad logistics can screw up good marketing comes in, because, as I like to say, you can have a really good product, you can have a very attractive price, you can have really creative promotion for the price. So you got three of the four P's are really good, but and you might have you might have a nice channel, you might have good intermediaries. So you got now five, six of the picture, but you got a little pesky logistics thing that just you know you ordered pepperoni pizza and onion pizza showed up. Oops. You ordered 10 pepperoni pizzas and five showed up. You ordered 10 pepperoni pizzas and none showed up. And these are all logistical kinds of things, right? So you could be really excited that, boy, you say, man, they got this new pepperoni. Man, people are raving about it, and they're offering it for $5.99, and they've got, really, all I got to do is press the, whatever app on my smartphone, and then you get the right size but the wrong topping, or you get 5 fewer pizzas than you ordered, or you don't get any of the pizzas that you ordered. So there's the bad logistics screwing up good marketing. All right. So, as I said, we would define what is meant by logistics. So I'm going to put on my handy dandy reading glasses and go to my wonderful textbook. And the co-author of this wonderful textbook, A. Michael Kniemeyer, is currently down at The Ohio State University. He teaches logistics down at The Ohio State University in the Fisher School of Business, or the Fisher College of Business, and he is a 91 graduate of the Boler School. He was a marketing logistics double major here. So he went on to bigger and better things, and kind of makes all my crap in the book look really good with his stuff in the book. So there's an organization called the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, CSCMP, so Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. And that organization's definition is a commonly used definition for logistics. So CSCMP says that logistics is that part of supply chain management that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customer requirements. So again, logistics is that part of supply chain management that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customers' requirements. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going on in that definition. And it's a very different definition than when I took my first logistics course. And actually, I didn't take a logistics course because the discipline was not called logistics when I took my first course in the discipline. It was called physical distribution management. But one of the things of the definition back when I took that course 40 years ago, there was nothing about customers in there. And so, what this definition says, in order to meet customers' requirements. So that's one tie-in to marketing right there. We're going to talk more at the end of this discussion about how logistics and marketing fit together. But customer requirements and meeting customer requirements is real important. And if you think about what's happened to customer requirements through the years, and even since you've been younger, I mean, I look at, and I'm obviously much older than you guys, and I can remember when I was your age, if you placed an order for something, you certainly weren't using technology to place the order. And you certainly weren't expecting to get the order anytime soon. So you might call up and place an order for something over the telephone, you might use a mail order catalog to place an order for something. Say you're ordering clothes, right? So you might call up the clothing manufacturer, the clothing company to place the order for clothes, or you might use the mail order to order clothes. Well, the telephone call is kind of quick. We understand that, relatively quick. If you're sending in something by mail, it's going to take a while for the thing to get there, and then somebody's got to open the envelope, and somebody's got to look at the order, and blah, 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 and then they got to fill the order, and then they got to ship the order. So you were looking at whole things of if you got an order in 3 or 4 days, you died and gone to heaven, basically. And it wasn't uncommon if you placed an order via telephone or via postal mail, you wait 2 weeks to get what it is you ordered. Contrast that to what's going on now, right? I mean, who waits 2 weeks for an order anymore? Who waits 2 days for an order anymore? Who waits 2 hours for an order anymore? And so one of the key aspects is that logistics exist in order to meet, customer needs, customer requirements, customer expectations. And again, those things continue to, evolve and generally get more demanding through time. Another thing that the definition talks about is the concept of information, and that's a really important concept as well, because information can be substituted for inventory. And in today's world in particular, information tends to be a lot cheaper than inventory. So that, I think back to when I, had my job after I got my MBA in the trucking industry, and um, everybody was doing stuff manually, and the importance of that was it was just a lot simpler in many cases when a manufacturer was sending stuff to retailers. They would just send stuff to retailers regardless of whether or not the retailer wanted the stuff. And from the manufacturer's perspective, that's a lot simpler because you just basically say, we're going to send out, 8 boxes of this and 8 boxes of this and 8 boxes of something else, and we're going to send those 24 boxes. Each of the retailers we serve is going to get 8 of this box, 8 of that box, and 8 of that box. Life is real simple. The problem is that the different retailers, right? They might have been, one of the things that we carried at the trucking company I worked for. We carried greeting cards. Right? We carried Hallmark cards. Well, the one Hallmark card store might want a different set of Hallmark cards than the other set. It didn't make any difference. Life was real simple. So now you've got this whole thing with information, and particularly with customer requirements. They don't, customers want what they want, right? We've become accustomed to getting exactly what we want, and so this one size fits all approach that a lot of companies pursued 30, 40 years ago, that doesn't fly in today's world. And so the ability to have information, and so when you go into a lot of stores, they may have cash registers, or they have some sort of information technology that basically tells them, hey, a blue sweater was sold here, whereas at the, maybe a sister store several miles away, there might have been a red sweater. So, and it turns out that maybe the one store sells a lot more blue sweaters than red sweaters. And so when we're resupplying those stores, we make sure that the store that's selling the blue sweaters is getting blue sweaters, and the store that's selling the red sweaters is getting the red sweaters, and not just sending blue and red sweaters equally to the stores, because in one case you're going to have too many red sweaters or blue sweaters, and in the other case you're not going to have enough red or blue sweaters. And that's a customer service or a customer satisfaction issue. So, and I could go into more detail on a lot of the other components in that particular definition. But there's a lot to that definition of logistics. So I also said that we would look at, how does logistics fit into marketing, and one of the ways is actually through the definition that I read you from the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. The idea that logistics should be focused on, right, meeting customer requirements. Right, so there's a customer focus, and that's an essence of, particularly contemporary marketing has a tremendous focus on the customer. There's also an emphasis in contemporary logistics and contemporary marketing. There's also an emphasis on customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction is simply looking at how well the actual service compared to the expected service. So what you're looking for, I can say, well, you were kind of hesitant there, how well the actual service compared to the expected service. So, if you were, let's say, flying in an airplane, and you were expecting that the plane would get there at 6 o'clock. If the plane gets there at 6:30, most people aren't going to be very happy, because there was an expectation that the plane was going to get there at 6. It got there at 6:30. On the other hand, if you're expecting to get there at 6 o'clock and the plane gets there at 5:45, now you're less likely to be angry, and you're more likely to be satisfied. And so again, customer satisfaction is a big deal, in part because what research has shown is that a satisfied customer is a prerequisite for a loyal customer or for customer loyalty. And customer loyalty is an important concept because what studies have shown is that two things about loyal customers: they buy more over time, and they tend to be more profitable over time. So the fact that logistics can have a really key role in customer satisfaction, right? Did the product get there on time? Did the product get there in the correct quantity? Was the correct product delivered? Was the product in good shape when it got delivered? So logistics is a really visible component, and it's one that can intimately contribute to customer satisfaction, which again ties it into marketing. Third area where logistics fits in with marketing involves the cost aspect, and that's important from a marketing perspective because anything that affects cost has to be or should be reflected in price. So if you have something that increases cost, that means they're either going to raise your price. Right, and if you raise your price, then the law of demand says less is going to be demanded. Or if you got something that increases cost, right, and you decide not to raise your price, then your contribution margin is going to be challenged, and you may need to sell a lot more product. And one of the things that like experience has shown is that the companies spend a lot of unneeded money on logistics, in part because they don't understand logistics. So, for example, I had a student a long time ago. I had a student, and he didn't get a really good grade. And this was even before I came to John Carroll. He didn't get a really good grade in my class, but he literally got a $5,000 raise from his company because he convinced them that they could get just as good a service by putting stuff on a truck as they could by putting it on a plane, in part because this company, this is an honest God true story, they were flying stuff between Washington Dulles Airport and Baltimore Washington International Airport. Those two airports are separated no more than 50 miles. But this guy's bosses knew that airplanes are fast, right? And he was able to convince them, after having one logistics course, that, you know what, we could put stuff on a truck, it would get there just as fast, it would be a lot cheaper, and you wouldn't have to handle the product as much. So this company saved a ton of money, and they gave the student $5,000 to show their appreciation. So costs can play into the equation of how logistics fits in with marketing. And then the final thing I want to talk about, and there are many more than four ways that logistics fits into marketing, but logistics or superior logistics can offer an organization competitive advantage. I think in the world that we live in 2016, really kind of the shining example of that is Amazon. And you saw that in the video you looked at for the first writing assignment, where it looked at an Amazon fulfillment center, but the Amazon fulfillment centers are not only carrying products that are sold by Amazon. Basically, what's happening is other companies that are selling products via e-commerce, they're basically using Amazon to do the fulfillment of the orders that are being placed to other companies or other people. So, you think about, why would somebody do that? Because Amazon has gotten so good at e-fulfillment, right? That electronic fulfillment, right, or e-commerce fulfillment, the company has gotten so good at it that other companies use Amazon because of Amazon's superior logistics. So I'm close to the 19-minute mark. I'm going to stop there, and there's a lot more I could talk about, but